In this video, we're going to be restoring this broken down Waterfall Cedar chest. Most furniture made prior to 1970 was a lot better quality than today's standards. Have a family heirloom or doing a furniture flip? Let us help you with that. Give your furniture some love. A client brought this cedar chest to me. She said she found it in the attic of one of her relatives and would like to get it all looking pretty again. As you can see, there's some parts falling off of it here. It does have a drawer that needs some repair in the bottom of it. All the veneer seems to be in pretty good shape. I don't see anything missing other than just a little tiny chip right here at the very back of the lid. Inside has a shelf in here that's going to have to be reinstalled. Straighten out some brackets and hardware. Here's the label. You can see it was made by Sears and Roebuck Company. Honor Built is their name brand for this. So the lock still seems to work on it. Probably missing the key. So I have to get this all stripped down and refinished. We'll have it looking like new again. Okay, to get this started, we're going to take apart the top and the drawer and all the hardware and the lock itself and get it down to bare bones. Okay, I got the lid removed. Now it's time to splice in a little bit of veneer right here where it's missing. The veneer I have isn't thick enough to match the original, so I'm going to have to do it in two pieces, 1, 2. Stack them on top of each other, and I'll show you how I do that. I beveled the front edge here at an angle, so the veneer, when it lightens up, it'll push up tighter, close in the gap. It'll be more hidden that way. I like to use clear acrylic from my glue blocks. That way I can see through it, make sure the veneer is lined up perfectly before I do the final clamping. You can buy this at Amazon, that's where I got this. You cut it with a saw. You can see it get the rough edge when you cut it with the saw, but if you take a little torch to it on the edge, you get a nice shiny finished edge with it. And here's what I'm talking about. A little torch, a handheld torch or a propane torch. You just kind of run across there. Nice finish edge. Shiny. Okay, I got my hide glue. Just put a little dab down in the hole here. Smear it around. Now I'll take my bottom piece of veneer, stick it on down in the hole. Put a little bit more glue on top of that. You can see I left it long here because it makes it easier to grab onto, have something to grab onto when you're putting it in there. And I can just trim that off after it's dried. So I'll stack that one on top of there. And then we'll take our clear acrylic block and we'll put that on top, and I can see right through there to make sure it's still lined up. And from here I can put some clamps on it. Clamp it in place. Alright, here. Okay, looks like we got a nice clean fit. So we'll just let that dry, then we'll trim off the excess and that repair will be done. Here's a close-up of the splice. You can see the 2 stacks of veneer into the void. It looks like I got a good glue squeeze out, which is always good. So once that dries, I'll just block that flat with the sandpaper on a sanding block and call it done. And I'll use a veneer saw to trim the excess of this veneer off. Just like that. And here we have the underside. It's going to take some work, a little rebuild. You can see it's a little loose in the corners. That corner's broke. Got a loose block in the back. Some loose veneer wood we're going to glue back down. And this piece here is clear off. So I'm going to attempt to nail it back on at one point. So I have to pull those nails out and make some more blocking down here and get it all glued back together. And here I have it all glued up on the bottom. I glued that strip on the back, made some new glue blocks where needed, added some extra glue blocks that I didn't have before. That's just a cheap way to add an extra structure to it. Okay, the last thing we need to do on this is repair this broken drawer. You can see the sides have split here. You got nails that have come apart, joints have come apart. I'll go ahead and replace this liner too, since that's looking pretty worn out and ugly. And get it all stitched back together. The one drawer side was kind of messed up, so I ended up splicing some wood in there, and I'll have to cut that to fit. As you can see, the drawer bottom itself is coming apart, delaminating. I got some wedges pushed in there for now so I can work some glue down into it. Normally I would replace that with a new piece of plywood, but since it has model numbers on the bottom of it, I wanted to keep it original. Once I get some high glue worked in there, I'll get it clamped flat and get it dried and be good as new. I now have the drawer done and all re-glued back together. As you can see, I've added a strip of wood in there where it was broken. Everything's nice and tight now. As you can see, the original glides on the bottom of that cedar chest are pretty rusty and crusty. So we're gonna go ahead and replace those with some nice new shiny new ones. We sell these on our store, annieshomestore.com. Feel free to get on there and see all the great stuff we sell. Just like that. Upon closer inspection, I noticed there's a few bubbles in the veneer, a few loose spots. So I went ahead and glued those 3 spots down, and those should be ready to take the clamps off at this point. Next step would be to strip the old finish off of it and get it sanded down and start back with a new finish. Okay, I have it all stripped down. You can see all the pretty veneer. Looks like it's a mixture of mahogany, some zebra wood, some walnut, and some fancy inlay here. So it's going to need a little bit of filling here and there, a few dents, dings. You can see there is a water stain on the top, so I may have to use some oxalic acid on that to remove that. So the next step would be to get it all sanded down and fill all the holes and get it prepped for finish. Whew, that's enough sanding. Wear your dust mask. The oxalic acid solution that I buy, I get it off Amazon.com. It is a powdered crystal form, and what you do is you mix that in with a cup of water, slowly, gradually, until it stops dissolving in the water, and at that point you know you've reached a saturated solution. From there, it's ready to brush onto the piece. Okay, I'm going to mix up this oxalic acid crystals in the water. It looks like sugar. And get it all stirred up. Once we get all the crystals dissolved, then it's ready to apply. Looks like we have a saturated solution in there, and it looks like it's good to go. Okay, here we go. Here you can see the darker stain that I'm referring to. I'm not so sure, but some of this might just be a darker veneer, natural wood coloring in there. It does show a little darker over here on the other spots as well. We'll see how this turns out once it dries. One other thing to know about oxalic acid is when it dries, it turns back into a crystal form. So when you sand the piece with a sander or sandpaper, those crystals will get airborne and get sucked up into your nose and give you sneezing fits. So I would recommend using a particle mask or just sanding it outdoors. Alright, the sanding's all done and I'm ready for stain. As you can see, I've masked off the secondary woods. What I want to do is come in and put a clear finish on the pretty woods and get them all sealed down. I don't want to get them muddy with the stain. So once I get the clear sealer put on those parts, then I'll unmask the secondary woods and apply a gel stain to those parts. And then I'll come back and use a grain filler on the pretty woods to fill the pores of the wood and the grain and get it all nice and uniform. Alright, and base stain here. For the secondary woods, I'm using Rust-Oleum dark walnut. I'll get this brushed on carefully. corners. Had to do a lot of epoxy fill on this space where there was missing wood, so this gel stain will help blend that in. Let's see how that looks. Oh yeah, that's a good color. Let's do this other side. Alright, and get that wiped off. That'll blend in nicely. Alright, got all the secondary wood stained up, and now the next step would be to apply a grain filler on top of this clear sealer. Grain filler I use comes from Mohawk. This is a medium walnut color. We'll just brush it on and work it into the pores. I either just do it in circular motions. And what this will do is we'll fill all that open grain and any small cracks that have opened up in the veneer, give us a nice smoother finish. Plus the color will accent the grain as well. You know, you just have to get it all brushed on, let it dry just a little bit, and then rub it back off the excess. And then I usually go back over that with just a dampened rag with some mineral spirits to remove the last residue. This will darken the color a little bit because of the adding color to the grain itself. Once we get it spread on there, then I'll let that sit a little bit, and then I'll take the excess off with just a plastic spreader. Just kind of work it across the grain like so. That probably works it down in the grain just a little bit more as well. And then I'll take the rag and get the extra off. As you can see, I'm also rubbing across the wood grain, get it nice and even. This stuff is really thick, like peanut butter. All right, get me another clean rag. Get some more of this off. This old veneer had a lot of cracks in it from shrinkage, so this will help fill all those in as well. And this is another clean rag that's slightly dampened with mineral spirits. And that'll take a little bit more of that residue off. So we'll need to have this dry at least 24 hours, and then it's After that, it'll be ready to start applying lacquer over the top of it. Alright, looks good. I have also used the grain filler on the bottom part. Feel a lot of open grain there. That'll give it a nice uniform finish as well. Alright, I got the sanding sealer put on, and I've sanded it down with 400 grit wet or dry sandpaper and 4.0 steel wool. So the next step would be to put the final lacquer coats on. Okay, we got our last piece of peel and stick velvet. I found this on Amazon.com. You just cut it to fit the size and just to peel the backing off and stick it down. There you go. Lined up in the corner on the edge. Just kind of spread it out in there. It's like putting on shelf paper. And the reveal. I appreciate you watching this video till the end. If you enjoyed the video or learned something from it, hit the like button or leave a comment. To see our future videos coming down the pipeline, subscribe to our channel. Give your furniture some love.
For hard to find hardware like these, check us out at AnniesHomeStore.com.